Hello, good morning to everyone. I am Sandhya Rani, research scholar at Sri Venkateshwara University, Tirupati. Today I am going to present my topic, screening of marine microorganisms, characterization and their antimicrobial activities. First introduction, oceans have borne most of the biological activities on our planet. Actinomycetes are a group of bacteria having both bacteria and fungal characteristics with many therapeutic applications to produce novel bioactive compounds like anti-infective agents with antibiotics like antibacterial, antifungal, antiprotozoal, antiviral, and anti-cancer activities, and play an important role in recycling of organic matter. In addition to synthesizing chemically active agents and promote the mineralization of degradation of organic matter and pollutants, they play a determining role in biogeochemical process of the oceans. These are the marine bioactive compounds. Look here. Which I have presented some sea organisms such as sea anemones, corals, sea orchins, molluscas, macroalgae, etc., which have the capability to produce bioactive compounds like collagen, polymers, minerals, glycoproteins, which have the medical applications. Next, objectives. Collection of mangrove soil and marine water from the coastal region of Andhra Pradesh, physicochemical and biological properties of marine soil and water, isolation of marine microorganisms, extraction, purification, and molecular characterization of bioactive compounds, mutations by physical and chemical properties, extraction of crude compounds from marine isolates, antiviral activities of bioactive compounds. Next, we go for collection of sample. I have collected the sample from mangrove soil and marine water of the coastal area of Andhra Pradesh, Maipadu Beach, Wakadu Beach, and Buckingham Canal. After collection of the sample, I go for physicochemical properties like pH, soil texture, odor, color, and water holding capacity. Here, soil color is a dark brown color, odor is no, smell, texture is there is no texture, silt is 15% is present, 15% present, clay is 15%, sand is 70% is present, pH is 7.6, electrical conductivity 2.09, carbon is 0.24% is there, potash 161 per hectare, zinc 0.41 ppm, manganese, phosphorus, iron, copper also is present in that soil. Next, after collection of the sample, I have cultured the sample from different media like nutrient agar media and potato dextrose agar media and starch casein agar media. These are the colonies present on the nutrient agar media. Next, we go for potato dextrose agar media. Here, number of fungal cultures are grown on potato dextrose media. Here, next, after completion of the nutrient agar media, potato dextrose agar media, I have starch casein agar media, best media for the cultivation of actinomycetes. Mangrove soil samples were collected initially aerated and pre-treated at 50 degrees centigrade for 1 hour. And starch casein agar media have 60% of the seawater was used for the isolation of actinomycetes. The pre-treated soil samples were serially dilution like 10 to the power of -2 to 10 to the power of -6 was plated on media with the help of spreader, and their inoculated pairs were incubated at the 30 degrees centigrade for 7 days. After incubation, actinomycetes colonies were isolated and the streak plate method was used to culture of actinomycetes strains. The isolated strains were screened for the production of bioactive compounds. These are the starch casein media. Look here, we can observe here white dried actinomycetes colonies. These are the stainings of the cultures. I have stained by using gram staining and lactophenyl cotton wool staining. Marine algae, actinomycetes, and aspergillus also we have observed here. Gram staining, I have used crystal violet, grams iodine, ethyl alcohol, safranin. Aspergillus niger, lactophenyl cotton wool stain was used. These are the unidentified cultures. Next, after the isolation of the cultures, I have screened for bioactive compounds which are produced by actinomycetes. The isolated strains were inoculated in ISP2 medium with 50% seawater. The inoculated flask was kept for incubation at room temperature for a period of 5 days on rotary shaker 120 rotation per minute at 28 degrees centigrade. After incubation, the broth was filtered and the filtrate was used to test antimicrobial activity. The overnight cultures like Staphylococcus aureus, Bacillus staphylococcus, E. coli, and Klebsiella was used for the organism. The test organisms were spread uniformly on the agar plate and wells were bored on the agar. The wells were filled with the filtrate, then Plates were incubated at 37 degrees centigrade for 24 to 48 hours. Observe the zone of inhibition on the surface of the media. Here we can observe here rotary shaker and the different filters I have isolated. Here we can observe antibacterial activity like Staphylococcus aureus, Bacillus subtilis, E. coli, and Klebsiella. Antifungal activity also have done. Aspergillus niger and penicillium species I have used for this activity. These are the zone emission. Green color was bacterial activity. Blue color was fungal activity. Next, I have done protein estimation by Lowry method. Here I using Folin CO-chelate reagent, CuSO4 solution and 0.1 normal to NaOH. Here principal copper sulfate solution reacts with the protein in an alkaline medium to form a blue color complex. Sodium potassium tartrate acts as a chelating agent. After blue color formation, I have took the readings at 660 nanometers in UV spectrophotometer. Finally, what I concluded that marine is the best source for the producing of bioactive compounds for the therapeutic applications. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much for the presentation, ma'am.
Good morning, all. We are here to present our work, which I have done in nanoparticle preparation and synthesis and characterization of titanium dioxide nanoparticle by FPSM, FTIR, and XID analysis. I'm going to present this presentation with my colleague Shraddha Shende. These are our contents. Introduction. Basically, titanium dioxide photocatalyst is a well-known and well-researched photocatalyst due to its interesting properties, which include stability, non-toxicity, biocompatibility, optical and electrical properties. The recent development of nanotechnology has proved that nanomaterials such as nanosite titanium dioxide photocatalyst can have high activity in the photodegradation of a wide range of organic and inorganic contaminants in water. In our work, we successfully synthesized TiO2 nanoparticle using soil gel method. Basically, nanotechnology is a multidisciplinary field that designs, studies, and synthesizes, characterization, and applies materials and devices system with its unique properties. Nanotechnology has gained immense attention and has become a key interested area for research and development due to its potential to revolutionize various fields, including electronic field, medicine field, energy, and environmental science field. TiO2 nanoparticle possess exceptional optical properties, which exhibit high transparency in visible ranges, are highly effective in absorbing UV radiation, or we can also say that ultraviolet radiation. This makes them highly useful in UV blocking coatings for sunscreens, textiles, and transparent films, which protect our skin and other materials from harmful UV radiation. It is believed that photocatalysis will soon be recognized as one of the most effective means of dealing with various kinds of waste water, since organic pollutants can be completely degraded due to harmless matter under normal condition of temperature and pressure. Methods of preparation. There are basically 4 methods for preparation of nanoparticles. First one is soil gel method, hydrothermal synthesis, spray pyrolysis, and hydrolysis. In first soil gel method, a versatile and widely used technique for synthesizing titanium dioxide nanoparticles through hydrolysis and condensation reactions. Second one is hydrothermal synthesis, a high pressure and high temperature which allows controlled growth of titanium dioxide nanoparticle with improved crystallinity. Third one is spray pyrolysis. It is the process which involves the conversion of liquid precursor into solid particle through rapid thermal decomposition. And last one is hydrolysis, a simpler method which involves the breakdown of precursor compound in the presence of water to form TiO2 nanoparticles. We prepare nanoparticle by using soil gel method. This method is more popular than other existing method used in industrial application due to its unique properties and characteristics. This process can be used to produce high quality nanoparticles of same size on an industrial scale. Using this method, we can produce two or more types of nanoparticle at a time. For this preparation method, we use all the chemical reagents which are of analytical grade. The chemical required for TiO2 nanoparticle preparation are TTIP, ethanol, hydrochloric acid. In this novel method, pure anatase TiO2 nanoparticles are prepared using TTIP as a precursor. First step for First step we use for this Solgel method for preparation of TiO2 nanoparticles. We take 240 ml of ethanol in a large beaker. Then we added 7.2 ml of concentrated HCl. Drop wise to this solution under magnetic stirrer. Then this solution is magnetic stirred slowly for an half an hour. After that stirring, we added 30 ml of TTIP. Drop wise to this solution under magnetic stirrer. After this process, we stir this solution for up to 6 hours. And at last, this solution is kept in hot air oven for drying at 100 degrees Celsius for 1 day. Then obtained TiO2 powder is grounded while using agitator for 90 minutes and then kept in muffle furnace at 540 degrees Celsius for 1.5 hours for calcination. This is the graphical diagram of this Solgel method. We prepared nanoparticle by using this method only. This is our experimental work. This is the sample we prepared by using that Solgel method. For characterization of this sample, we use 4 methods that are X-ray diffraction, XRD, transmission, electron microscopy, TEM, SEM, and FTIR. Basically, in XRD method, we found that XRD, that is the synthesized TiO2 nanoparticles, are tetragonal anatase phase and they are in nano size. The different characters like instrumental broadening, specific surface area, and dislocation density and morphology index are tested by using this method. In FSM, the TiO2 nanoparticle analyzed by this technique, this graph shows results that that the sphere-like structure of TiO2 having 50 to 60 nanometer of diameter. FTIR. This nanoparticle method characterization method shows a nanoparticle peak at 590 centimeter is due to vibration of the TiO and O bond. FTIR spectra show the presence of TiO2 bonds and the absence of peroxides and OH groups in the finished TiO2 nanoparticle, that is last synthesized particle. We prepare nanoparticles with by doping also with 5% of zinc to increase their efficiency towards removing methyl from wastewater. Application of this synthesized TiO2 nanoparticle. Titanium dioxide is used in various inorganic white pigment for paper, paints, plastic, and whitening agents. Also, TiO2 nanoparticles are used as a UV blocking pigments in sunscreens, cosmetics, vanishings, and fabrics. Also, TiO2 has unique photocatalytic properties that make it suitable for a number of advanced applications such as self-cleaning glass and defogging coatings, and also in photovoltaic cell. From our work, we concluded that our report, the characterization of TiO2 nanoparticles to remove dye from wastewater was investigated. The particles are characterized using various techniques, including X-ray diffraction, XRD method, field emission scanning, electron microscopy, FSM. The results of this study shows that the TiO2 particles were highly crystalline and had a high surface area. In order to synthesize pure anatase phase, TiO2 nanoparticles with high quality production and efficient fabrication method of Solgel method is performed. From the synthetic method considered, it is clear that there is still potential to obtain nanostructured TiO2 particle with different properties by modifying existing method. By changing precursor or other chemicals, this method is highly valued for its economic prospect, environmental friendliness, feasibility, and catalysis. medicine, agriculture, and in wastewater treatment. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. My name is Ani Tubaji, and I'm the person who is chairing this session. It is my pleasure to be with you, and many thanks to Professor Sarhan Ghosh who accommodated our special session. It's a special session on a special issue, which is called couch-based development in the regions of India. Thank you very much. So thanks to everyone who is here today. Thanks to everybody who is with us. And thanks to the organizers, and especially Professor Sarhan Ghosh, for accommodating this special issue on culture-based development in the regions of India. My name is Ani Tubaji, and I work at Swansea University. I work on the concept of culture-based development. And what I hope to do today for you is to take you through the main idea of what culture-based development is, and then what is the motivation of this special issue. The special issue is jointly edited as key editors by Professor Ghosh, Professor Sumana Bandyopadhyay, who is the head of the Regional Science Association for India, as well as me and Yashi Jain, who is my PhD student, an exclusively talented lady who is part of the program, and I'll tell you a few more words about her later on. She is working exclusively on culture-based development and the circular economy. So the special issue that we would like to collect papers for, contributions for, also from this special session, hopefully some of you will be interested to submit. It's a special issue about culture and public goods consumption. And public goods consumption seems to correlate with culture and also between each other across space. So instead of the classical understanding that there might be some kind of substitution between closed type goods, while they're all public goods, things related to ecology, things related to health, things related to education seem to correlate in space. So this is explained by the cultural mindset of places, especially if you model a culture in the adequate way. In other words, culture is an important component of the behavior of people. And if you make a model, economic model, that tries to explain the behavior of people, and you do not include culture as a motivator, you're doing the thing that everybody who deals with modeling, from whichever kind of perspective, knows. You will be under-specifying and under-quantifying the model. Now, you'll be under-quantifying it if you also do not take into consideration all the aspects of what culture is. And the way to do this properly has been extensively conceptualized and empirically demonstrated in a series of contributions on culture-based development. So without further ado, let me show you the brief program. It will be me with introduction to the special issue, and then making a small presentation of how the culture-based development concept can be applied on linking, on the one side, the ecology, which metaphorically is called here the geography of flowers, and the political propensities of people, which is the geography of flower power. So there seems to be, on top of the correlation between culture and the different kind of public goods, a correlation between the provision of public goods and how people vote and how satisfied they are with their government. So the provision for ecological protection, the provision for education, health, reflects also, of course, on the people. And then we will see in a particular study for the European Union how, and European cities, how this exactly has to be conducted as an analysis, and how strong it is as an influence both on life satisfaction and voting, and then to which people exactly, because of course the citizens can be divided in different subgroups. And then we will see how this can be translated for the case of India, because people are people everywhere, and people want to have a decent and respectful life and dignity and satisfying environment and provision of public goods. All this being, of course, parceled together. And then we will see yet another very specialized application for culture-based development and the circular economy in India. Although Yash is not here, I will tell you a few words about this paper because it's also already published, and you can yourself, if you're interested, have a further look at it. And really, it uses a wealth of information about India. The India culture, and she showcases how this data is available and can be very precisely and methodologically correctly collected and used for the case of India. And then a wonderful new idea will be presented by Suresh Govindapuram from Creio University, where you have not only the circular economy considered, which is part of the research, but it's also compared with other public goods, especially health and education. And he will talk about yet another data set which is available and can accommodate such kind of culture-based development approach to the regional development in India from the perspective of public goods provision. So without further ado, let us spend the next 10 minutes on understanding why this special issue, and also, of course, why India. Well, the culture-based development paradigm is actually a neo-Weberian paradigm. Max Weber was this very erudite both sociologist and economist who created the so-called economics of religion. So his main take here was that different cultural attitudes of people across space determine their different socioeconomic behavior. And he put this in the sense of Protestant ethics and spirit of capitalism, promoting the capitalistic development in the Occident, as he was calling it, so Germany and the Occident. But this is just the most seminal book of a series of books that he wrote afterwards. His second book on the topic was delving into the religious differences in China and how they explain the regional economic development differences across the territory of China. And actually, his third book was dedicated on India. So my culture-based development paradigm has been working starting from, of course, Germany, where I made my PhD, then with applications for Europe and for the United States. And this year, there was in March a new special issue which came out and was dedicated on the second book of Weber and his work on China. So it took a lot of Chinese and non-Chinese colleagues who were interested in China, and we selected, we had a lot of really good contributions, but we selected those that you see here, and we actually made a double special issue within the content here, which was quite successful. And now we continue the quest of comparing what is the cultural influence on the development of places, and in the steps of Max Weber, we look into India. This is the one of the reasons why this special issue is dedicated to India. Well, the previous special issue was also related to the 160 years of the birth of Max Weber and 110 years from the religion of China. But India is on our focus because of its exquisitely interesting, rich, and diverse cultural heritage on the one side. On the other side, because of the linguistic diversity, which is much more historically and attitudinally informed in India than just about in any other territory in the world. So our interest here is to see how the cultural basis, the cultural fundament in India can on one side be approached from the culture-based development point of view. culture in a place, in a region, is defined as a complex entity of two main sub-entities, and these are cultural heritage and living culture. Now, it's very important to understand that on the one side, culture is something which is inherited and which evolves relatively slowly. It actually has value for people because it's inherited. So they will stick to it and they will not be, of course, very willing to easily change it because it identifies them, it teaches them a lot of their moral stability. And that's why it defines the economic choices. Okay, that's why it causally can be thought as the thing that drives it. Of course, culture also evolves over time, and that's why it's not deterministic, and it can be a stochastic process which can go in any direction. But then you have to model the part which changes separately, and this part which changes will be called living culture, and you have to monitor what changes it, because on top of being separate, it's also endogenous. It responds to the environment in which people are situated. So this is the kind of precise modeling that you have to have in mind when you are about to quantify this complex input into the function, which produces the socioeconomic choices of people and places. Then there is yet another aspect, that living culture and cultural heritage are not important just in terms of stock. It's not just important how many temples you have. It's important how much you care for these temples in comparison to how much you are also introducing innovation and modernization, because the two things can be in different proportions. If you have a lot of temples, but you have also a very rich and innovative cultural scene for artists nowadays, you are very healthily balanced. And if you only invest in modern things, but you destroy your temples, right, this is a completely different kind of local milieu. So you have to see what is the balance between them by using the measure of cultural entropy between the cultural heritage and living culture in a space, so Shannon entropy in specific. So this is the standard approach of culture-based development to how you measure culture. But we think that it might be actually very informative to use language as an alternative proxy to the usual way that culture, heritage, and living culture would normally be approached by CBD. By CBD, the standard thing is to look at the cultural participation. And for that matter, the work of Yashi is showcasing this, how you can collect information about the consumption of books, the consumption of TV, the consumption of different kind of cultural assets and cultural goods and services, and also to count this for quantifying living culture. And then cultural heritage, of course, by counting the number of temples, the number of sacred territories, the number of also immaterial heritage. It can be the different tales or the fairy tales or the different sacred books, sacred scripts, and so on and so forth that are passed from previous generations. Then you make a kind of reduction of the statistical diversity of culture by applying reduction methods. Start not only the Shannon entropy that I told you, but also before this, you make a principal component factor analysis with this multiple small number of small attitudes. Why you do it? Because the different cultural attitudes might actually also correlate way too much. So then you don't want to just throw a whole bag of cultural attitudes that may create collinearity, right? So you want, before this, to conduct a factor analysis and to keep only this joint variation of the cultural variables that is indeed meaningful and specific, and will be identifying the cultural factor at full, but sufficiently compact and not overloading the overall variation in the model with the cultural variable. And we think that language might be a very good substitute to all these cultural participation indicators. And we would like to compare the standard CBD approach with the participation and heritage sites being counted by looking at different linguistic measures of difference between people. Why? Because language is the thing closest to the mind. closest to the way of thinking of people. And linguistic differences have for a long time been shown in psycholinguistics and the studies that are interested in the mind, that they do correlate with different mindset and different propensities in behavior of different cultures that have grammatical and linguistic differences. In the same time, grammatical and linguistic proximities between people would have tendency to have a similarity in behavior. For instance, if a language is using intensively pronouns, personal pronouns, then there is much more individualistic behavior in the place. And if it is one of those languages that omit the use of pronouns, personal pronouns, and distinguishes the actor in a sentence just by the ending of the verb, then they are much more collectivist, much more suppressing the individual role in society. This is just one difference. So then it's interesting to see whether such kind of linguistic differences and the differences in the keywords that predominate in the use of language, which is related to the so-called tip flow in language, might be sufficient to explain the cultural propensities and differences in terms of how people handle their socioeconomic investments. And to what degree this is comparable with the cultural participation and heritage. I see that two of the people are around the computer. Is everything fine? Do you hear us well?
Yes, everything is fine.
Okay. So then I continue. So this is the first part in characterizing what is culture-based development. Why we are interested in public goods? Because the care for the environment is one of the many ways that we have to care for us in a group manner, to have a decision that is a matter of public choice. It's a public good, which is a matter of public choice, right? And public choice theory has looked in general at the behavior of institutions as agents that are sometimes useful to society, but up to a point, and this point has to be determined by the type of good which is shared and the number of people who are in the club. And in general, there are a lot of game theoretical theories coming from public goods and public choice realm, which help supposedly to understand what is the maximum provision for the different kind of public goods. But even they do not account enough for the satisfaction of people, while the main premise of public choice is the liberty and what people would like. And what people would like and what make people happy is actually culturally different. And it has to be factored in order to really provide to people what is best for them, but also the things that satisfy them in the best possible way. And why do we care about this? Because also governments have to serve in the proper way, which the person on the other side, the receiver of the service, will appreciate, rather than just do what they think is good without considering the attitudes of the people. And if the government perceives that the attitudes are not the correct ones, then work has to be done to raise the awareness or to do other attempts to ameliorate the perception and not just leave it as is with making interventions that are not appreciated. So that's why the different kind of public goods have to be studied from the point of view of the linguistic sensitivity that is part of how they're desired by people and places. And then the role of the institutions requires then that we also take an institutional economic approach, because institutions exist on an aggregate level, and how you aggregate people and the different groups, these clubs, how they are represented in society, and what kind of power they have to express their attitudes is, of course, very much related to their language and to their cultural belonging in general. And to make a full circle here, The special issue is also done in cooperation with the UNESCO Learning Cities Observatory, because cities want to learn how their local authorities can do their best in supporting the local community according to its interest and according to the balance between the cultural attitudes and what the environment really needs and the other public goods would benefit to be in terms of optimal provision. There is also the so-called Pascal Observatory that supports this research, because the Pascal Observatory links different authorities around the world, and especially cities, this kind of authority levels, as well as practitioners and researchers who create best practices for the management of places. And there is also a special representative of the Pascal Observatory in India, who is part of the whole process. And to complete the circle, this interest in cities and this governmental level of the analysis, the fact that it's the regions of India in specific that interest us, is again motivated by the work of Weber, because Max Weber claims that the emergence of the city, the emergence of the local organization of people, is what made a drastic difference in the development of civilizations. And this is his book, The City, which proposes this idea. So this is, in a sense, again, a neo-Weberian study. Culture-based development is a neo-Weberian study. It's neo-Weberian because it focuses not only on religion, but on many aspects of culture. It believes in language as a very important proxy, just as much as religion, and then applies the importance of these differences not just for people, but for groups, and how these groups manage to handle their most important public good resources, which, as we all know, sometimes, if they're common goods and not just public goods, may suffer from the tragedy of the commons and many other culturally sensitive biases. So this is the snapshot of what this special issue is about, and how it is contextualized in previous work on CBD and the current particular interest in India. Now I will show you an actual implementation of culture-based development analysis, which was done firstly for Europe, just like in the case of Weber. There is first book for the Occident, and then it can be, of course, applied elsewhere in the world, and we'll see how it can be translated for the case of India. So there is this paper of mine, which is already published, and it's called Geographies of Flowers and Geographies of Flower Power. The way that this metaphor goes, as I already noted, geographies of flowers means the individual proactiveness on ecological issues, and geographies of flower power, sorry for the typo, there must be one R there, is the political engagement of people. So the main question in this study is whether the local provision of ecological goods is related to the satisfaction of people with the local government. And shortly, the answer is yes, very much so. So first I will show you the theoretical motivation of this work, which extends to further classical texts in regional and public choice economics, links culture-based development as a factor to main studies in the field of regional and public choice economics. Then we will see how exactly the culture-based development analysis is done, what is the methodology behind it. We'll see what data has been used to operationalize this methodology, and the results from the point of view how they can be replicated in India. What will be the relevant level, and what will be the data sources that can allow this to be done also for the regions of India. So the theory which motivates this study, and in general the modern literature after Weber that looks at local development is from regional and public choice field, and this Thibault paper that proposes the pure theory of local expenditure. The original paper was claiming that people vote with their feet. Now you might have heard this in relation to the American studies of Richard Florida, who was saying that the very creative people vote with their feet and so on and so forth. But the original idea comes from Thibault, and Florida also recognizes that. Now, so what is voting with your feet? It means that when a person is in a locality which provides certain public goods, certain level of environmental protection, certain level of health care, now, they cannot themselves easily change this provision because the choice is not theirs. The choice is the choice of the majority of the place. So the only thing that they can do is, even if they vote, they cannot change the voting in the political system, and or the political political management of the place will do with regard to public goods. What they can do is to vote with their feet, in other words, to move themselves physically, to migrate to locality which provides the public goods which matter. But then this is a very important factor, because it will say that the local provision of public goods makes people move across space, and it may move out of a place people who are actually very much progressive, very much useful to this place, and they would have been better to stay in this place and help it develop. But if it does not provide the proper care for the ecology, the proper provision of education and health, these people may self-select and leave the place. So that's why it's particularly important to monitor how a place invests in its public good, so that it does not follow a kind of cultural sway which underprovides the public goods and allows the most valuable and progressive people that can contribute to the development of the place move out of it, out of trying to just simply sort themselves with other people whose culture and whose interests in the management of places is closer to their more efficient and progressive needs. So this is sort of partially the paper, partially my interpretation for the particular case that we are doing. But I think now you can appreciate how the literature itself already links the behavior of the individual and the satisfaction with the political management of places with regards to the public goods in specific. Then we want to have the measurement of cultural heritage and living culture as a main component and requirement for implementing the culture-based development process properly. So a model in order to avoid under-specification and under-quantification of culture has not only to include culture, but to include culture in its at least one variable of cultural heritage and living culture. And the best thing is to make all the procedure that I have described to you in terms of using a wealth of attitudes and then reducing the eventual collinearity between them by using methods like partially square path modeling or principal component factor analysis, because this will ensure that you're not only not avoiding an important factor, but also that you are properly measuring this factor and putting all the information in it. Because if you quantify culture, although you have included it in the model, it again will be poorly defined model, because you are under-specifying it due to under-quantification of culture. And besides this, after you have measured the input, you do also a special procedure of value-free analysis of values, because you do not want to introduce your own researcher's bias into the analysis. In the end of the day, nobody of us is perfect. So we do have our cultural differences, and the question is to distinguish them and to show how they are. We do not want to stigmatize others and to impose our view, whatever our view is, as the right view when we are making the analysis. Of course, as individuals, we may have our preferences and our siding with the cultural differences, but the analysis has to be neutral. It has to be able to analyze the values in a value-free manner, without judgment, but with analytical and reason-based approach. And you will see there are 3 steps that can guarantee this. So here are the 3 steps. If you don't see them very well here, first of all, I'll explain them to you in the moment. And also, if you want to read more about this, there is a paper on the value-free analysis of values by me that you can find free access in space. Now, the 3 things, it's a protocol of 3 steps. The first step would be to identify whether the cultural values per se have an impact. So you do not want to know whether it's good or bad. You want to know whether it has an impact, a statistically significant impact on outcome of interest. This means to analyze it in a value-free manner first. Because whether you think it's good or bad is just a question of your opinion, but what matters is whether this attitude will make a difference for the world in a significant manner. And then you can see whether this impact is positive or negative in terms of decreasing or increasing this important outcome of interest. And then what you will do in your analysis is not to impose judgment, but to provide evidence that the attitude is decreasing or increasing the particular outcome of interest. So in other words, if we're thinking about the ecological satisfaction or the voting satisfaction of people, it's not a question of judging them, whether they're good or bad in the way that they think culturally, but to establish whether their cultural attitudes increase the satisfaction of the local community or lead to the decrease of satisfaction of the local community with the local government. Okay, so this is what we want to find out. What is the second step is called the Aristotelian Kuznets curve. Now, it is coming on the one side from philosophy, the way that this step is labeled, but it has also a very deep statistical reasoning behind it, and also economic explanation. So Aristotle's main idea was that the golden mean is where the good thing is, right? So you shouldn't care about anything and value anything excessively. So this translated in the context of public goods, some kind of a moderate provision of these goods without over-accentuating to any one of them should be the golden mean, right? Or if we're talking about the consumption of art, again, the consumption of art has to be moderate and not excessively propelled locally. Now, this
And
might... Pardon?
So, would just like to remind you, you have 2 minutes left for your presentation. Like, we have presentations for 10 minutes. So there are 2 minutes if you could conclude.
No, I think that I must have more because as we know from the program, there is one of the presenters missing. So that's the way that I have made the plan.
Okay. We do have another as I mentioned before, we have a presentation from a previous session that is lined up as well. So, but it's okay.
I understand, but you should have also have made a plan for Yashi.
Yeah, sure. Sure.
So you have 10 additional minutes there, which I can cover with the presentation.
Okay, that's okay. Okay.
Yeah. So the second part would be motivated also by the fact that in economics, we know that there is a marginal rate of substitution, which is valid in the behavior of people, and also that this the overall satisfaction of people starts to decrease when they have a lot from a thing. Okay, and that's another way of thinking about it is called the indifference curve. So the indifference curve and the Kuznets curve all are essentially graphs that have a tipping point which reverses its direction of travel. Initially it increases and then it starts decreasing from one point onward. So in order to cater for this in the modeling of cultural attitudes, you have to see and expect that the provision of just about any kind of public good will have initially a positive effect on the outcome of interest, and from one point on it will have a negative effect. In order to capture this in modeling in linear sense, you will have to include the consumption of ecological public good and the square root of this same consumption, which should capture a certain reversal and will have a significant value for the consumption and for its square, but for the value of the consumption, the sign will be positive, and for its square, negative, or in the reverse. They'll have a tip of the sign, capturing this inflection point. And ultimately, you will have the so-called Platonian third step. Platonian because Plato was saying that we all have our own version of the truth. So you have the fire, which represents truth, and everybody is seated in his own cave, where he perceives the truth from his angle. In other words, we interpret this as cultural relativity. What is increasing the happiness of people with local government will be slightly different across different places that have different cultural background. Okay? To cater for this, you have to make the regional analysis more explicit by doing something which is called hierarchical modeling, and to capture the effect of the individual preferences for voting, but then to see how these individual preferences have local means across the different localities. These local means of the effect capture this Platonian cultural relativity of the cultural bias on the choices that people make, in specific the choice that they make, whether they're satisfied or not, and by how much, from the local government and its provision of public goods. Now, this abstract kind of thinking can be turned into an operational model by taking two outcome variables of interest and comparing them according to these three steps. The one outcome of interest will be the life satisfaction of people. And the second outcome of interest will be the propensity to local political action. And we will see how the local political, the assumption is the local political action is moved by the satisfaction of people. If they're not satisfied, they will also act in order to get satisfied. And then the outcomes are related, and they will have a similar reaction from one and the same inputs into the behavioral triggers, for the behavior. And here, the triggers of interest will be the provision of art consumption, and the provision of ecological public good care. So these will be the main inputs, together with different individual controls, so who the person is demographically, and they will be explaining the life satisfaction and the political activity. So there are two kinds of data sets that are used to operationalize this approach. So obviously, in the second step for the Kuznets curve, we'll take the square root of these main inputs, the art provision and the eco provision, and then we will make the hierarchical model for capturing the means, the relative means of impact of art and ecology on the outcomes of interest. And we will use first the individual data from the World Value Survey, which is in its last wave, 2017-2021. And then we will kind of cross-check, triangulate whether the same results can be found when we use the data on city level for the year 2016 from this GRC database. GRC is the Joint Research Center of the European Commission. So these are all the cities around Europe, and it's interesting to see whether the individual and the more aggregate city behavior have the same tendency. So I'll go relatively fast over it. Especially second data set is more interesting because instead of just the art consumption and the eco consumption, which is in the first data set, it has this battery of variables. So when we talk about, the cultural heritage, we have the venues, the museums, the art galleries, the theaters, the cinemas, and then they have been subdued to this kind of principal component analysis and measured in these terms. Then the living culture is measured with a different kind, again, of potential consumption variables, which will be the participation of local people into these activities which are provided. So the one is the presence and the other is the intake of people of these activities. And then you have the percentage of green areas per capita in the locality, and the NO2 concentration in the atmosphere as two measures for the ecological provision of places. And now what emerges from the analysis descriptively is that there is a difference in the way that the cultural provision and the ecological provision matter for people if you divide these people in terms of whether they live in urban or in rural places. The care and concern of places about the ecological provision is higher in urban areas and lower in rural, while for art it is swapped. And the interesting thing here is to highlight that when people have from something, they tend to care less from it, from this tendency of people to require less from what is more, which is the standard economic behavior. So this kind of irregularity has to be taken into consideration. Then you have the division of people between local and migrants. So Thibaut was saying that if people don't like the place, they will go to another place, right? This is the voting with your feet. But interestingly, it seems that actually the incumbent population, those who live locally and do not move, are the ones that have way more concerned interest in the ecological provision in the place than in the artistic provision in the place in total, no matter whether they live in rural or in urban areas. And this has been actually avoided in the whole context, because those who remain also have their say, and they're actually the ones that keep voting for the local policy and politics and care with this, to be satisfied or not with the political management of the local government and public good management of the local government. And now if we look at the results from a more rigorous statistical point of view, we see that whichever kind of way you slash the people, the impact from the art activity or ecological activity is statistically on average is statistically related with the satisfaction of people and as well with the political voting. And while there are differences into how sensitive are people to the ecological and art provision, when you start slashing between rural, migrant, and incumbent, when you think of political activity, this participation in art and provision of ecological good seem to be particularly explicitly always significant for all individuals. So it seems that there is a very strong drive of the public goods to predict the local voting, so to speak. Then in the interest of time, let me go further. So we do the kind of Kuznets curve. So there is this kink, this reversal of the sign and the remaining significance of the contribution of culture and ecological factors. Then we can see with the other data set for cities, we see that there is a relationship between the outcome here will be the quality of governance, the perception of people for the quality of local governance. And it seems that the local government's appreciation is sort of related with the cultural heritage, with the venues, and is definitely strongly positively associated with the cultural participation and unfortunately the degree of ecological pollution of the place, while the provision of green places is negatively associated with the local satisfaction, which is a strange but very prominent relationship out there. So our main conclusion is that essentially the disregard of the place in terms of disregard to the ecology is associated with local economic development, which determines people to keep voting for whoever is managing this thing, disregarding the local ecological milieu. But the good news is that our findings show that the cultural element can modify this disregard. And let's see how this is demonstrated. So if you have the local venue, you have always as an outcome the quality of governance in the perception of people. And if you try to moderate the impact of employment and the population accessibility, so the economic factors, to moderate it with different kind of variables and to horse race them, you see that the cultural participation can improve the quality of government satisfaction, and you can have similar effect from the green areas provision per head, which obviously will counter the NO2 effect. And then you can horse race the two things, the cultural participation and the green provision, and they do not seem to be very, very strongly taking over each other. But if you interact them, you find out that actually there is certain kind of trade-off that you can stimulate, and then the cultural participation will dominate it. So this kind of cultural negligence can be further moderated by providing the cultural participation, the living culture trigger, and with it you can moderate the quality of governance interests in a dominant manner. So if we want to make some kind of similar analysis, what happens with the regions of India and how the local provision of public goods, ecological goods, associates with local culture and with local political voting, can this be done? Well, in order to be done, similar kind of data has to be found, data on either India state level or India city level. Then there should be information also about the cultural participation in India, and Yashi's paper shows that such data exists on a sufficiently disaggregated level. Of course, heritage information as well, or one can use language data, and then local voting or local public good managers and their local performance is a question of how is the political system in the country structured and what would be the local indicators for the performance and the satisfaction of people with these governments. This will then be sufficient in order to implement the very same steps of a value-free analysis with the culture-based input as the main impact factor of interest, and this will be then translated entirely. So thank you for your attention for that paper. I will give the floor to Suresh in a second, but let me show you the paper of Yashi that she was about to present. Apologies on her side that she will not be able to do that, but she's really ill. I talked with her yesterday and I asked her not to come because she's also pregnant and it's really dangerous here. It's very early. It's not advisable to exceed beyond her power. So here is the paper. It's called Culture-Based Development and Pro-Circular Economy, Behavior in India. We had chosen this one because it already demonstrates that there is data for quantifying culture according to the culture-based development manner. And our further step would be in sort of replicating this study, which shows that the local culture in India, the participation in local culture and the presence of cultural heritage predicts the way to which the local economy harms the environment. But we will want to replicate this by comparing the cultural measure with the linguistic measure, and to see whether they have similar statistical power to depict the cultural differences and their influence on the ecology. So please have a look at this paper. It is published in Scienze Regionali, which is the regional economics official paper for Italy. Okay, it is showing the data and the methodology that we have applied. And now, without further ado, I would like to give the floor to the next presenter if there are no questions to me, or if there are questions, I'm happy to take them. Thank you.
Have a presenter, Ms. Swastika Mandal. She was supposed to have a presentation in the morning, but we are carrying it forward right now. So she would be presenting now. Ms. Swastika?
So good afternoon, everyone. Let me start my presentation by saying a few words about my own background. I am Swastika Mandal from Zoology Department, Chagda College, University of Kalyani, and project intern from Department of Applied Science, Vishwabharati University. So as you can see on the screen, today I am going to talk about waste sorting robots, innovations and impact on recycling and environmental sustainability. Now we all know that waste management and recycling have never been more crucial than they are today. As our planet faces a burgeoning population and escalating levels of consumption, the management of waste materials has become a foremost global concern. In the environment that is challenged or confronted by the challenges of climate change, resource scarcity, and environmental degradation, understanding and embracing the sustainable waste management and recycling practices is not just an option, it is an absolute necessity now. Waste sorting robots emerge as a transformative technology and that is offering promising prospects in the streamlining and enhancing the efficiency level of waste management systems, contributing to a more sustainable and environmentally conscious future. Now, waste sorting robots have undergone significant developments in recent decades, driven by a growing need of the efficient waste management and environmental sustainability. Here is an overview of the history and evolution of the waste sorting robots. So, what are the early innovations? We need to know about that. So, the concept of automated waste sorting emerged in the 1980s first, with the development of basic sorting systems. And these early robots were rudimentary and primarily used in controlled industrial settings for tasks like sorting and picking, followed by the maturing technology. Now, next, the advanced sorting capabilities. The machine learning and the AI technologies have played a significant role in enhancing waste sorting robots' capabilities. Now, in the 2020s, have witnessed a surge in the adoption of waste sorting robots in the recycling facilities and waste management systems worldwide. The modular and scalable systems are also under our consideration. The ongoing research and development efforts are focused on making these waste sorting robots even more efficient, cost-effective, and capable of handling a wide range of materials. Innovations such as improved grippers, advanced sensors, and increased sorting speeds continue to drive the evolution of this technology. So, what is the global impact? Let's find out. Waste sorting robots are now used in recycling facilities, municipal waste sorting plants, and e-waste processing centers globally. They play a crucial role in reducing contamination in recycling streams and increasing the recycling rates and enhancing overall waste management efficiency. Now, waste sorting robots present a convergence of cutting-edge technologies and components essential for achieving precise and efficient waste separation. These robots can be categorized based on their design and application into several distinct types. Under the design categories, we get the Cartesian robots, the SCARA robots, that is the Selective Compliance Articulated Robot Arm, denoted as SCARA. These robots designed for the tasks that demand fast and precise lateral movements. So that is visible in the slide we can see here. And under the application categories, we also have the recycling sorting robots, the construction and demolition waste sorting robots, the e-waste sorting robots, the municipal waste, food waste, medical waste, even the plastic sorting robots. So categorizing waste sorting robots in this manner, it helps to highlight the diversity of designs and applications, each serving a unique role in the broader landscape of waste management and recycling. Next, we have a chart representation that is depicting the recycling facilities where robots are deployed on the basis of the data of 2018. Now, waste sorting robots have found the real world applications in recycling facilities and waste management centers. It is revolutionizing the way we manage waste and contributing to a more sustainable environment. Certainly, here are a few case studies that demonstrate the effectiveness of waste sorting robots in improving the recycling rates. So first of all, we have the Zen Robotics in France, we have the Polygraph in the UK, the AMP Robotics or AMP Robotics deployed AI-powered robots in a single stream recycling facility in Colorado, the Recyc Renova waste sorting plant in Sweden. In India, these kind of waste sorting robots are being implemented eventually, and these case studies exemplify the positive impact of waste sorting robots in recycling facilities where they have consistently improved recycling rates by enhancing the efficiency and accuracy of the sorting processes. Now, next in this slide, there is a representation of the growth rate and a comparative study about the waste sorting AI market and its economy. Now, one of the major considerations is the environmental impact and also the economic consideration. That is very important to know. So waste sorting robots offer substantial environmental benefits by significantly reducing the amount of waste sent to the landfills and promoting recycling and other programs. Here's an analysis of how they contribute these kind of environmental advantages. So first of all, we have reduced landfill waste, then increased recycling rates by reduction in the contamination in recycling streams. Then we have the conservation of the resources and reduction in greenhouse emission. Next, the cost effectiveness of implementing this kind of waste sorting robots in waste management processes is a complex consideration that depends on various factors, including the initial investment, the operational costs, and the value of recovered materials. Now, here's an evaluation of these aspects. So first of all, we have to consider the initial cost, which is quite high in this case. The operational costs that include reduction in the labor cost, the energy consumption, and also the repairing and the maintenance cost, which we have to keep in mind. Now you see, waste sorting robot technologies hold a great promise, but it also faces a range of challenges and limitations that need to be addressed or sorted out as soon as possible for its widespread adoption and effectiveness. The initial investment in waste sorting robots and associated infrastructure can be significant, presenting a barrier to entry for some waste management facilities, especially for the smaller ones. Next, there is a very important aspect in this case, that is the social and ethical implications. The automation of waste management processes, including the use of waste sorting robots, raises several important social and ethical considerations. One of the most significant social concerns is the potential impact on employment. Ensuring that waste sorting robots comply with the regulation and standards for waste handling, and environmental protection in the ethical imperatives. Now, this can include compliance with hazardous waste regulation, safety standards, and the data privacy laws also. So, well, in sum, we can say that waste sorting robots have demonstrated their materials, their capabilities to significantly improve recycling rates by accurately identifying and segregating the recyclable materials for complex waste streams, while simultaneously reducing the contamination and enhancing the resource recovery. Now, there is a very important aspect that I have just discussed, that is the social and ethical implication. And this slide is basically showing nothing but the graphical representation of the global recycling and robotic market size. So here are some of my references that I have used. And I would like to express my deep sense of appreciation and a special thanks to my co-author, Mr. Arnav Mandal, from Department of Biotechnology, from Amrita School of Biotech, for his contribution to this presentation. And thank you for this beautiful platform to let me present on the innovation and impact on the recycling and environmental sustainability, this issue. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Vartika. And actually, by production, we are happy to take the ACI management. This is the topic of our presentation, which is examining the dislocating intention among Gen Z to a very sustainable mission. Next. So, starting with the introduction of the law, menstruation, the biological process experienced by women, and this topic or tackle topic in most societies today. This campus has resulted in limited discussion around menstrual products and its impact of the media in the future. The rapid urbanization and promotion of menstrual products by companies resulted in women beginning to use convenient menstrual products without keeping impact on the environment. So,
Is this one?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. Can you please try this pointer? Yeah.
So, in recent years, Gen Z in general have become very important consumer segment for most of the companies, and including the part of menstrual products as well. Gen Z are comparatively aware about environment, they're high on consciousness compared to the older generation. Moreover, they're open to change, less affected by the cultural bias of menstruation and being a taboo, and they have shown a capability to make independent purchases. So, given this background, what we attempt to do through this paper, our objective is to examine the intention of Gen Z women towards adopting sustainable menstrual products. As a theoretical background, to understand the whole phenomenon, we applied a theory called value-based law, given by Stern in 1999, to examine the process of consumer adoption of sustainable menstrual products. This theory has been extensively used in sustainable literature wherever anything to do with environmental behavior has been understood as to what really affects consumers' interest in embracing environmental friendly products. The theory proposes a conceptual model where poor environmental behavior is acted by a relationship change through an individual's value orientation, and which leads to awareness of consequences for environment, which has an impact on sense of obligation to take environmental action, and eventually which impacts the intention to adopt a green product. So if you look at the conceptual model, basically what I just spoke, this is how the value release norm model would look like. biospheric values are true with the environmental values, environment-friendly values system that you have, which has an impact on your belief system about how much your actions can have an impact on the environment, which will define your personal norms in terms of how much you yourself think can be responsible or can have an impact on environment through your activities, and which will have finally the impact on our dependent variable, which is intention to adopt. So this particular conceptual model is what we are testing in this paper. Now, Rashmi, Professor Rashmi, go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Vanika. So as Dr. Vanika already explained, that the conceptual model that we are building is based on the value belief law theory. To test the conceptual model, we have created a questionnaire which is based on instruments that are available in the literature. That questionnaire was administered to 114 Gen Z women. The questionnaire measured the variables of nuclear theory, awareness of S&P, that's sustainable menstrual products, and social demographic data, basically their education level, age, where they resided, etc. The validity of the conceptual model was tested using serial mediation analysis using process macro in SPSS 22. Let's see what the data revealed. Most of our respondents, in fact, all of our respondents were in the age group of 18 to 24. They resided in the city of Mumbai, Thane, and their suburbs. 10.5% respondents were secondary school students, that's 10th, 11th, and 12th. 38.7% respondents were graduates, and 50.8% were pursuing post-graduation. Very interestingly, 37.7% respondents were already using sustainable menstrual products. In order to test our conceptual model, we used the serial mediation analysis using the process macro in SPSS 22. What you see in bold, the line at the bottom, which is indirect 3. Indirect 3 is basically this particular path: biospheric values, awareness of consequences, personal norm, leading to intention to adopt. Where my awareness to consequences and personal norm are the two serial mediators, and intention to adopt is our dependent variable. We found that the serial mediation is significant because the lower limit and the upper limit does not contain 0. If you see the IND3, the lower limit and the upper limit does not contain 0, indicating there is a statistically significant deviation that has. Now, interpreting this results into what actually it means. So what we have seen is that Gen Z women are open to using sustainable menstrual products. They do have a sense of awareness and responsibility towards the environment. That's why about 38% of our respondents were already using SNPs or sustainable menstrual products. Gen Zs with a high level of biospheric values, that means they have an understanding about the environment and they care about the environment, are aware of the harmful consequences of using non-biodegradable menstrual products, which are currently the mass market products, but the negative impact they have on the environment. They feel responsible towards the environment and are willing to adopt sustainable menstrual products. Personal norms show us that they feel that the quality of environment will improve if the use of non-biodegradable sanitary pads is reduced. Further, they feel that healthy environment is not just the responsibility of government or some organization or some business, but they also feel that they too need to contribute towards a healthy environment. They believe that they are empowered to make an independent choice of using sustainable menstrual product after careful consideration of several options, and that's where we've seen that high levels of a structured responsibility as well as personal norms is leading towards the intention of adopting sustainable solutions. We are open to take questions if there are any.
At the end of all this,
Thank you.
Good afternoon to everyone. Thank you so much for giving this opportunity to present our idea at this prestigious conference. And me and Annie proposed this paper as one of the chapter in book. Annie has already elaborated on how the issue is about and what is the importance of public good provision and culture-based development. So here I'm mostly focusing on what are the important public good provisions in India and how it is related to culture, like through a lens of culture-based development. So I'm Suresh. Currently, I'm teaching at Kriya University. Coming to the background, one second. Okay, so background. So here we are just going to focus on what is the important literature or the literature and the gap, literature gap, and then we are going to propose some hypothesis, and we are also seeing how this hypothesis can be translated into a research questions through, and we also have identified the data source for it. So coming to the main important, we have divided literature into two types. One is with respect to public good provision, and another one is with respect to culture-based development. The first one is the public good provisions, where Tobert, even Annie was also telling. So here is like important. The people actually move to the places where they will get the whatever they want. So that's why he conceptualized the vote your feet, feet your vote. So so that was about importance of public goods provision, either in terms of education, health, ecology, and so on. People move to the place where they will get all the facilities. And coming to the cultural other aspect, so where we are seeing like the entropy as a measure is used in economics, like mostly in 1917 by the Regan. And then it was conceptualized and used in many other disciplines, especially like the geography or spatial aspect, and it also used in the industrial economics and so on. But coming to the culture as an aspect used in his study by what is called Desmet in 2017. So he uses culture sometimes as a rational diversity or sometimes as a different attitudes. Okay, so then he took all the attitudes and plotted on the geographical location, and they found that there is no relation as such. So, but coming to the culture as an aspect, and Annie Tuber in 2014, he elaborated on what is the important cultural attributes as such. So she has developed a dimension or the using the factor analysis and developed an index, and which comprises is two important. One is culture heritage and the living culture, two components. And then in the latest paper, and she also tried to see what is the relationship between these two things, culture heritage and the living culture. So in our proposed chapter or the paper, so we are seeing in the two things. One is the public good provisions, that is education, health, and ecology. And from a cultural development, culture-based development model, so we are seeing in what is four ways. Like one is with respect to linguistics, another one is with respect to religion, and social aspect, that is caste, and also the most important one is the culture heritage and living culture. So these are mostly most important public good provisions. Let's say if you talk about education, so you have a lot of schemes of the government as well as so this differs from the linguistics. Okay, the linguistic in the sense that people with the mother. So you have already some literature exists on the linguistics, how these issues of language discrimination and the provision of goods happen. And we have also seen the discrimination with respect to the social, cultural, and economic aspects, religion and caste. So this model or the paper we trying to mostly see from the culture-based development. So for this hypothesis to get into a good analysis, we use the data on what is called National Family Health Survey, which of India. So we have almost 5 rounds, and the 6th round is undergoing. So we have a data from the 1992 onwards, where the first round happened. So this gives us the opportunity to do the individual level, household level, and as well as the regional level, like the state level as such. So like you have 3 levels data. So we will try to see how this hypothesis can be interpreted using this data. So this was our proposal for the chapters. So if you have any comments or suggestions, we will take out.
Hello everyone. This is Samriddhi Pandit and Suresh Parekh from Heaven Institute of PGDM, and we are here to present our product Lakshya, which is a sustainable option to wallpaper. This is the literature review. So from various documents which were published, it shows that how our product has been a crucial step towards the ecological and environment-friendly product. So these are the references towards that. So furthermore, it demonstrates the whole literature review overall demonstrates that every artigraph products export percentage has grown in recent years, supporting the notion that Indian handicrafts will unquestionably shape it globally, economically, and thus the various literatures are giving the statements for the same. So, for introducing this product, this is the need of the art, the product of ecological development and sustainable development. A product is important because right now, for past 5 years, the decomposition of wallpaper has reached a value of 1.5 billion, and it is estimated that it would reach 1.5 billion by 2025. So these are the various continents whose share is given here. North America being the largest market of 30% of the global market, contributing to the decomposition of the wallpaper. Also the Europe with 25%, Asia Pacific with 20%, and Latin America with 15%. These numbers are further going to face the following challenges, which is lack of standardization in wallpaper recycling processes. So there is no standard process of recycling the wallpapers, so it becomes difficult for recycling them. And the high cost of recycling doesn't justify the business cost, which is aligned with the same. Also, the lack of consumer awareness because of the people are not aware that the wallpapers can be recycled, so it becomes difficult for the decomposition of these wallpapers. On the other hand, our product is based on the inspiration of eco-friendly, that is Lakshya is the name of our product, and it contains biodegradable materials like threads and newspaper. So basically our product is made from the strips of newspaper which is hand woven together and with the thread. So the materials used are biodegradable, which is environment friendly, and furthermore, our product also promotes women empowerment and artisan upskilling. So women empowerment is going to get encouraged because of this product, because the skills which are required is available in the rural market, and also the artisans would be promoted in the making of this product. Apart from this, Make in India is promoted from this product, and also giving all of these benefits, we are not compromising on the aesthetics. So wallpaper is meant for enhancing the view and the look of the room. So that is not compromised even as we are giving these benefits. So aesthetic and holistic, this is thus an holistic product which doesn't compromise on the aesthetics. Here is a sneak peek on how the government is also promoting such products, which is a recent scheme, Vishwakarma scheme, which was launched by the central government under the Ministry of MSME, and they have initial outlay of 13,000 crore. The country has the first time brought a scheme like this that supports these Vishwakarmas, which is the artisans. So these are the parameters which they have laid this scheme on. This is the holistic and end-to-end support which will be given to the artisans, and the Guru Shishya Parampara would also be promoted by the scheme. Apart from that, loans would be approved, and Pradhan Mantri Shram Yogi Bandhan Yojana are also under the economical aspects of the Vishwakarma scheme. Apart from this, the artisans would be given the market exposure by the National Committee of Marketing, will provide marketing and branding support.
The product, what is vinyl? Vinyl could be a product which is a decorative or a coating on a wallpaper, which comprises of two aspects. It determines the durability and how long the product or the wallpaper will last. And secondly, it is an organic compound which is determined to clean the product easily with a cloth. So vinyl, as in on the wallpaper, when the vinyl is applied, it is prone to moisture, and when the moisture comes into contact with the air, it could lead to grow of fungus and could reduce the overall quality of the air around us. So also it is not breathable. The moisture that is present on the paper could reduce the air quality. Also, it has a bad smell. In short term, it doesn't seem that much important. But when we go to a long term aspect, it could cause lung diseases and cancer. This is a photo of our product, and this is the graphical representation, pictorial representation of how our product seems as the miniature is given and how it would look in front of the phone. So these are the attributes of the product. It is easily recyclable. As we can see that paper mash could be taken and it could be upscaled and still be used. Then it also promotes handloom industries, as we can see, and it also gives an opportunity to the rural population to showcase their skills. It creates employment opportunities to the underrepresented population of our nation. As it is used by as it is done by scrap material, it is also very cost effective. It is also biodegradable. As we know that paper only takes 6 to 7 weeks to decompose and give it back to the nature. And we can't compromise on the aesthetics. So yes, this is a graphical representation of the survey that we conducted about our product. From the first question, we could derive that this paper could be in demand, that our product is in demand. Second, graphical representation also shows the differentiation between how people prefer, how many people prefer modern decor or the vintage decor. Then people also think that 84% of the people think that upcycling of the newspaper could reduce the overall cost, product cost, and it could make our product cost effective. And it would boost the artisanship. So 88% of the people think that it would boost the artisanship. Further will be done by
Future research. So this slide basically represents that what can be done more in this aspect. So the consumer preference, we can conduct surveys or the focus groups can be conducted to understand the consumer preferences of this product. And furthermore, we can also give them a variety in this product that we can provide them with different colors, which will be eco-friendly definitely, and also the design trend. So depending upon the trend analysis and factor used to determine the consumer behavior. So the trend analysis would be done, and accordingly the product can be further modified based on the consumer preferences. Apart from that, the emotional and psychological impact. As we all know that nowadays the consumers are more inclined towards using economically friendly products. So this has an impact on that. Also, the market and trend analysis, analyzing the market and the competitor strategy. The competitors basically for our product are the non-hand woven wallpapers or the paint industry or the vinyl-based wallpapers also. So we can understand their competitor strategy, and definitely our product gives you the aesthetics and also promotes the eco-friendly product. So we have an upper hand over them is what I believe. Next is the conclusion. So basically, if I want to conclude, our product aims to be a good ending for the world throughout its process from its manufacturing till its recycling. It is not harming the environment at all. Also, as I said, the structure of our product is recycled papers. So there is a recycling and reuse of the newspaper which we should throw away. So that can be used for the decoration ahead. Hand woven industry is promoted and natural adhesives are also used. So there is even the adhesives are. Next is promotes artisanship and sustainability. And demand for sustainable product has skyrocketed as we all know. And the target audience for sustainable wallpaper is also growing. The market is diverse. Lastly, what are we offering? A sturdy structure that screams minimalism, a sense of contribution, and a sense of responsibility. Thank you. Feel responsible, feel good.
Well, thank you very much for the really interesting presentations, very diverse, but all definitely having a touch with the cultural nexus. A general question, because I don't know how we're moving with time, to all of you, is have you considered the geography of the country? India is a big thing. So what the emotional response of consumers in different places will be is different. Also, there are huge economic differences. And when you are talking about competitors, do you have in mind a competitor that is having less cultural sensitivity in the design? Because this will highlight the cultural uptake the best. This was the second thing I was wondering, whether one can look, this should be easy, on the sales of companies that provide such kind of sanitary napkins, right? And you can see in which shops in the country there are more sales and which shops there are less sales. So you can depict the behavior of consumers much easier and very ready to access. And I would imagine that also a company will be very grateful if you make this kind of analysis for them, right? If they haven't made it already for themselves, where the geographical reach of the product is better. And then what are the motivators for the consumers? Because for them, this is also economic benefit. And this brings me to the Svastika's presentation. Again, I think she's not with us, but it was super interesting to see what will be the diffusion of this technology, because it is not only the preferences of people, but also the technologies can be different. She was listing there different kind of robots. So then the question was, which kind of technology finds best diffusion across space? Are they diffusing the same way, or is there something in their characteristics that makes them more appealing and more accessible for certain users in comparison to other users? And then what kind of user preferences match with what kind of technology characteristics to facilitate the diffusion? These are exclusively interesting questions, and again, very much necessary to be looked on a regional level across India, because whole countries can be placed in parts of India, right? India is a big space and also economically so diverse. What I'm saying that I will put my email here in the chat. And if you are interested in the special issue, I'll send you the call with all the description of the main idea, the particular requirements. There are already submitted papers, so you can have a look there of the abstracts in the description of the special issue. But these are examples and not restrictive. Each of the presentations that we heard had an economic aspect of it, isn't it? Which is relevant and interesting. And the question is to have a source of cultural bias on some economic aspect of the public good. In the first case, you had the creation of a technology, and you could see the economic impact of the diffusion of this technology as dependent on the local cultural preferences for the uptake of this technology. And you could look regionally across India in which states you have a better adoption, higher adoption of the robots as a result of the cultural preferences of people, but also the richness of the place, right? There are parts of India which are leaders in IT development. They perhaps will have much higher interest, much higher economic ability also to use these robots. Other areas might have the interest, but might not have the finance to uptake it. There will be other areas that will have the financial ability, but will not have the interest in this kind of technology because they have cultural background, which is more related to kind of ecological relationship of a different kind. Okay. And these are the things that have to be disentangled. On the one side, for the producers to know where they can market their production, which is ecological production. On the other side, for the government to know where the ecology will be helped by the new technology and where it will not. So this is a very relevant contribution in itself. The second thing, which was about the sanitary napkins for menstruation. Well, this is a super important question. It was already phrased as a research question very much in the culture-based development sense, saying that, okay, there are norms, there are beliefs that are shaping this thing. But then the question is, how do we measure the norms and beliefs? Is it norms and beliefs only with regard to the ecology, or it's much broader kind of norms and beliefs that might be measured in influencing the behavior of the consumer? And then it is even more relevant here to consider the financial situation of the individual, not only the cultural beliefs and the bringing of the person, but also what the person is fighting. If you're about to decide whether to feed your first child or whether to invest in this kind of sanitary and ecologically friendly thing, this obviously will be in a conflict and you have to choose. So you cannot judge people's considerations without taking into consideration their economic endogeneity. And then, of course, I don't know what is the case in India, but there are many schemes here in the UK and across other European countries where you have a free provision of this kind of napkins throughout the public spaces, at least. And this can make a big difference, not only in terms of awareness of people and addressing their proactiveness, but especially catering for people who might not have the financial need, or the financial ability to address this need. And for the last paper, I absolutely loved it because having the design itself, incorporating, as we already saw it, this cultural sensitivity, this makes already the product more open to cater for the cultural needs of a place. So it's really interesting to compare it with a standard wallpaper update. And if you find that the design that has a cultural loom consideration has a higher uptake than the standard loom in one and the same place, and this is consistently across places, so you have a place that generally doesn't care for the ecology, but still it pays more attention to this culturally more sensitive design. And then another place which is culturally sensitive per se, but still it has better response to this culturally sensitive design, then you will be able to understand what promotes the diffusion of technologically friendly and ecologically friendly designs. And this will be the cultural sensitivity of the design itself. But you have to cross-check it, and you have to cross-check it carefully, because again, it may vary across different cultural background of the person and different economic affordability on the side of the person. And also the product itself was kind of economically more advantageous as far as I understood from the presentation. It was cheaper. So then you have to disentangle these two characteristics of the product itself, which one drives the uptake of the consumer.